So you've worked on a variety of different kind of voice acting roles, and was there something that made Selene stand out to you at all?
Well, I think the thing that is so central to Selene is that she is always in a reactive sort of position, I suppose. Things are happening around her all the time. And so the woman that she becomes is in some ways born out of this incredible sort of set of circumstances that she finds herself in. And I think that's the thing that I find so unique about her. And many of the characters that I've played are very strong, intelligent, dynamic women. But I think Selene kind of takes that to the nth degree in the sense that she is so resilient and so driven. But in combination with that, there's this incredible vulnerability and humanity that exists. So I think she's a very expansive sort of character, and I think perhaps that is in some ways what is unique about her for me.
Yeah, I think Selene has been through a lot. So I think when we're looking at the different audio logs for Selene, so we had the different kind of eras of Selene there. So I think we just had the numbers, right? So we had Selene 0, Selene 25, Selene 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what Harry's referring to is the spectrum of, I guess you could say, sanity that Selene experiences. So 0 is Selene on a pretty good day, she's got it together, and she's despite everything that's happened.
She just landed on the hostile alien planet. It's like, yeah,
it's no big deal. That's
life
in
could
my
be worse.
remit. As an astronaut, I know how to deal with that. And then, of course, the cycle starts to take hold. And the deeper she goes into the cycle, the more, I suppose you could say, she loses a sense of reality or a sense of her reality. It really starts to shift. So we could work really well with this spectrum. Sometimes she's a little bit like, whoa, okay, I'm here again. I've woken up and I have this kind of resonance of having been here before, but I think I'm all right. And then the more that resonance builds and expands, I think the harder it is for her mind to keep hold of reality.
Yeah, because I think there was, so she was kind of falling off the cliff towards the end there, I guess, mentally. But in some ways, it was also bringing some kind of like strange clarity and perspective to some personal events as well. So it almost like it came full circle. But I'm just wondering, out of all of those like 10,000 different versions of Selene we had there, were there any particular audio logs or pieces of audio that you recorded that felt more fun or more like really, really memorable for you?
Fun is not a word I would necessarily associate with
A time loop, yeah.
with Celine's experience.
Sure.
Certainly, I did enjoy it though as an actor. I think in terms of the things that were interesting to record, I think that journey into I hesitate to use the word insanity. I don't think that fully articulates what happens to Selene. I think she goes into this process. Maybe she starts kind of as like an egg that's really confident and well-formed, and then it kind of starts to crack and opens into this point of realization and perhaps surrender. And the surrender is, in some ways, a surrendering of an acceptance of what is happening to her and what she's been through. So I enjoyed, that massive arc that she takes, and there's huge pleasure to dive into that as an actor, and to imagine yourself in these extraordinary circumstances and how you might be, and then to bring your humanity into that in such a way that invites the player, into the experience. I have to say, the whole process of playing Selene was fun and hugely pleasurable for me. Apart from having to go so many times. I was like, oh, okay, I have to gasp again. How can I do it differently? No. Yeah, all right, just do it that way.
Nailed it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Selene was determined to a fault, right? So
her drive, this compulsion that she has, which is almost mysterious, I think, even to herself, gets her into a lot of trouble. But it also is probably what's going to allow her to break through to perhaps something rather extraordinary in terms of how she's able to make sense of her own life. But I really love that about Selene. I like that she just goes for it, and she's confident and not easily defeated.
Yeah, and that was such a direct kind of result of just basically the gameplay. I think if we were making like a really slower paced kind of just more traditional horror game, I think we would have played perhaps a bit more with the vulnerability and that kind of just spiraling down into despair and kind of just more of Celine's weakness, I guess, or vulnerable aspects would have come to the surface. But now we just had like this hard line that we couldn't cross. I mean, doesn't matter how broken she was still like doing backflips and
that's
you
right.
know, weapons and like, you know, she was a badass.
She's a badass. Oh yeah. And isn't that great to have such a wonderful female badass? I think that's just fantastic. And she doesn't break down in tears. She doesn't have those moments that, you're right, you might see if it was just straight out horror film. Especially, you know, this is often the remit of a female sort of character. That's the role that they might play in the horror genre, is to be crying and upset and all this stuff. And she sidesteps that, I think, by, again, it's her drive. And I think it's also what the environment demands of her. If she sits down and cries, well, that's it. You know, I mean, it ends up being that's it anyway, because then she gets killed and then she has to go back and do the whole thing again. But gosh, it wouldn't be very fun for the player if every time she, you know, has a challenge, she's crying. Like, who would be interested in that? So she, you know, she doesn't have time to get retrospective in a morose way, or to process the things that are happening to her now in a way that makes her crumble. She just deals with what's coming and then gets on with it. And I that's just such a great sort of role model, I think.
Yeah, but she does have that unwavering quality about her. And I think she's also very, you know, she can get very philosophical and analytical and has that kind of, that scientist or that explorer vibe. And I think originally the vision for Selene was that she was just, you know, she just had a dream. She just wanted to explore the cosmos.
Yeah.
You know, and then the whole generational trauma kind of came in, and it ended up being a very, very dark and very personal kind of story, and that of course created quite a bit of perceived disconnect originally with kind of the type of game we're trying to make. That's all about just having fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why it was challenged so much. But we ended up just making that one of Celine's most defining and arguably strongest traits in the end.
I have a couple of questions for Jane. What went into the preparation for the role?
One of the interesting things about being an actor in a video game is that frequently you don't have much time or opportunity to prepare. You get your script sort of the day before, and I'll have a look at it. When you audition for a game, you will be given an image of the character, a biography of the character, and then a few sample lines. So based on that image and the biography and the sample lines, I will come up with a kind of sense of what I think the character is going to be. So I will take that into my first day of recording, and then with the game director and the narrative director and the performance director, we will find the character in the moment. So I guess what I'm saying is the preparation, there's you know, about that much preparation that sort of happens at the beginning, and then really the preparation is about making sure that you as an actor are in a state of readiness, you're in a state of availability, so that you can take whatever direction is being given to you and roll with it. And if I have created an idea about a character in my mind and it turns out that it's not appropriate, also the preparation is being able to drop that and to be flexible and have some agility with some of the choices that you make.
Thank you both for the talk. It's really enlightening. I guess this question is more for Harry.
Sure.
As the director, what are some ways you sort of kept morale and energy high? And how did you manage to sort of stay balanced in telling such a personal story that also came from a really personal place?
Yeah, thanks for the great question. I don't know if I was successful in staying balanced, to be honest, throughout development. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard for me. I mean, it was the COVID, it was lockdown, 2 kids at home, and a lot of. I mean, even directing a game of this magnitude is more than a full-time job in itself. And then with COVID, I remember that there were times that I'd be wrapping up my last meeting of the day at 6 o'clock in the evening, and the moment that I pressed the button to hang up, I just turn around and just grab my kid from next to me. So there was zero downtime between the two. I think it was just about being patient, and I think it was just about understanding that, look, I signed up for this, honestly, and I knew that there's no silver bullet. I knew that there was a storm coming, and I was in that storm, and I knew that storm wouldn't last forever. So I think just knowing that, again, it kind of helped deal with those frequent feelings of fight or flight, of uncertainty, of doubt. And yeah, the rest, I think, we had some great camaraderie, to be honest, in the team over at Housemarque. So lots of colleagues, but also close friends. And, we were all in this together. We supported each other. And I think, day by day, we just kind of took it one day at a time, I guess, and powered through eventually. Thanks for the wonderful question.
Well said. Thank you.
Just a question for Harry again. A bit about your professional history, I guess. What were the big challenges for you going from lead programmer to become game director on Next Machina? And then again, did you find those same challenges with Returnal, or were there new and very different challenges to being game director on that project?
Yeah, I think I was always, as a programmer, I had an undying passion for game design, and I was always very invested in kind of the big picture of the game in a way. So even when I was just working on the controls, or fun fact, the bullet system I actually wrote for Outland 13 years ago is the same system, heavily modified, that we ended up using in Returnal as well. So that system actually survived. But even back then, when I was working on the subsystems, I was really mindful of how the big picture comes together. And I think it was just about having a lot of proactivity and initiative on wanting to be involved with those big decisions, and communicating that mission, and collaborating with others. So in a way, it's kind of even just going from programmer to lead programmer. It's nobody really gave me that title. I just kind of took it. And I think, Next Machina was an incredibly challenging project, because that was the first time I was directing and arguably being the lead programmer for the project as well. Coding the very last super boss until 6 o'clock in the morning. I remember I was closing my eyes and I would just see bullets flowing in front of me. And yeah, that was the last time that I actually coded. I think moving to Returnal, I tried to code for a few days. I tinkered with the player controls. I did a boss prototype. But after that, I realized that was not going to be sustainable. So it was just committing more to directing. So just doing a lot of presentations and communicating and defining the vision. And then, I haven't actually programmed for a long time, but I do miss it. I miss the tinkering. I don't miss the being accountable for fixing all of those bugs, but I miss the fun parts of programming.
And so as we go into 2022 has been an enormous year for both of you, obviously. But I guess my question is, what's next for you both?
Jane, would you like to?
I am working on a couple of games upcoming, and unfortunately I can't tell you what they are, but I am doing that, and that's happening probably in a couple of weeks. We'll start one of those games, so I look forward to diving in and being in the studio again and bringing to life the next fabulous character.
Yeah, we're incredibly proud what we accomplished with Returnal. And Returnal was kind of almost like a natural evolution of what we were making before with our arcade-inspired games, right? So I think it would be completely unreasonable for us to completely change direction after Returnal, right? So expect a lot more explosions from us in the future, a lot of that neon-infused, unapologetic arcade action, and just in a, in whatever package that ends up being in the future. And I think that's about as much as I can say without the Sony SWAT team kind of like coming in and pulling me away.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank
Join
you.
me in congratulating Harry and Jane and thanking them for an amazing evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.